Hello, everybody. Jim Phillips here. You are with me live on Living in Full Expression with Jim Phillips on the Awake TV network. I want to welcome you to another episode. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to try something a little bit different tonight. And while I usually tend to speak extemporaneously, even in all the other episodes that I've done, I'm going to try something a little bit different because the other episodes that I've done, I've had more or less a theme that I was speaking about or a topic or a question that somebody had asked me during the course of the week. But what I'm going to do today is I've just had some thoughts coming to me, and this is really around what's happening in the world right now. And certainly with the pandemic that we're all experiencing, I think many people are questioning a lot of things, questioning themselves, questioning what's going on in the world, questioning on how we got to where we are, questioning where we're going to go from this point forward, questioning why so many people are having to lose their lives at this particular point in time. And so some words came to me during one of my morning walks, and this was a couple of days ago. So I've allowed this to be marinating, if you will, in my mind for the last few days or so. And the words that came up were why, what, how, and then again, what. And it was in that order: why, what, how, and what. And so I allowed them to just kind of settle in, and I paid attention to what I was receiving as a result of those words having come in. And so I'm going to just elaborate, and this is going to be coming just extemporaneously. I haven't written notes down. What I'm looking at, if you see me doing that, is just the four words. So I make sure that I hit each of the four words as I'm going through this, but I don't have any other notes. I mean, this is it. I don't have any other notes written down in terms of what I'm going to say or how I want to say this. I'm just going to let it flow, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully it's going to be a benefit to those of you who watch this or are watching this either live or upon the replay. And I'm certain it's going to be a benefit to me, because anytime that I share information like this, it is something that I know that I can integrate into who I am and how I continue to live from this point forward. So the first question, or the first word, is why, which obviously is a question. And so what that originally brought up for me is, why is this happening now? And when I say, why is this happening, of course, it does bring into the conversation the whole idea of the coronavirus. Why is this happening to humanity now? And really, this specific moment, I mean, why now versus when it could have happened before? And I'm sure there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances that have taken place leading us to get to where we are now. And this is not about placing any blame on anybody, any particular country, any particular group of people. This is looking at it from a global perspective, from a perspective as it affects humanity. So why is this happening? To me, the easiest answer to that, and this is not so much why the virus is happening, but it's more, to me, looking at what this is causing us to all do. And what I'm getting from my coaching clients, and again, I talk about having just conversations with people all the time, and also a lot of stuff that I'm seeing in terms of what's happening on social media, is that lots of people are taking a look at themselves. They're really questioning who they are, what they've done, why they've done it to this point, why life has turned out the way that it has, what responsibility they hold in their life unfolding the way that it has. It's causing humanity, I think, as a whole, to have more compassion for one another. I think there's certainly a lot of compassion coming out towards those who are suffering because of the virus, those who perhaps are not suffering with the virus, but suffering as a result of it because of being out of work, because of not being able to buy food for their family. There's a lot of children who rely on their school lunches and breakfasts as lunches, and maybe there's a snack in the afternoon. That's their daily meals. And now with what we're experiencing right now, schools being closed, I think a lot of children are going without food. And I guess it's getting us to think about that. Why, when we have such an abundant world, are so many people without any of the basics of life? And I'm not talking about everybody having to have the I'm going to say the abundance, but the prosperity maybe that we associate with abundance, which is having, a nice house, nice car, always having good food, having the finer things of life. There's just a lot of people who don't even have the basics. They don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have shelter, they're not safe. And there's just no reason for that, given the world that we live in. And I do think that the why of the virus being here at this time, and it could have been anything, it's about all of us coming together. It's about all of us sharing in the same thoughts and feelings and hope, I think, for all of humanity. And what we do know is that anytime there is an event like this, and when I say an event like this, we can say that it's a natural occurrence, that we have like this pandemic, or we have a tsunami, or we have hurricanes or tornadoes, or we have earthquakes, or we have something that happens that is totally out of our control. And we see how it brings us together. We see how the compassion that we all hold for one another, for our neighbors, for people across the world from us. We see how compassion comes out of each one of us, how we reach out, how it's genuine and it's heartfelt. How many people who are capable of doing it reach into their pocketbooks and they start taking money out. They contribute to help those who have less or who have nothing at all. So the why, I think, is about bringing us all together. I think that's a huge, huge part of this. It's about bringing us all together. It's about helping us all come to the collective realization that we are the ones responsible for the way the world is right now. It isn't any one person. It isn't any one people. It's all of us collectively. We are responsible for the condition of the world at this particular time. And of course, when you are responsible, when you acknowledge it, is when you can do something about it. And I think that's part of this as well. It's about us coming to that realization, that recognition. And then it's about taking steps, making decisions first and foremost, but making decisions that would allow us to move towards what I believe is the world that the vast majority of us say that we want. Certainly there's people who are in power, who want to stay in power, who want to be in control, who are going to continue to try to control and manipulate. But I believe this is a part of why we're in this place right now too, is to let those who are in power or who perceive themselves to be in power to know that no, there's more of us that want life differently than those in power would want us to have life. Those who would try to control us and prevent us from living the life that really is our birthright, living in full expression of our own truth, individually and collectively. So the why is about that to me. And it's deeper, but I'm not going to get into any more than just that. And then we can drill it down a little bit. And this gets more specific to individuals, because a lot of individuals say, why is this happening to me? And I would think it's especially that sort of feeling or belief that somebody might hold if entering into this pandemic phase of life that we're in right now. Maybe they were living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they didn't even have enough money coming in, or maybe they didn't even have a job, or maybe they didn't have enough food. Maybe whatever the circumstances are, they've been exacerbated by the fact that we're now under this pandemic that has taken over the planet. And so some of their thoughts might be, well, why is this happening to me? Why am I've gone through all these other situations in my life. Maybe there's been illness there before. Maybe there has been job layoffs. Maybe there is no money now. Whatever their circumstances might be, where they constantly feel like they're being beat up by life, their thought could be, why is this happening to me? And this to me gets back to our perspective of life. And I know that somebody that's in that condition of why is this happening to me, that has continuously had challenging things happen in their lives, I can see where somebody would take on that belief. But I think if we can think about it from a higher perspective, and that is the perspective of, why is this benefiting me? Why is this happening to me so that I might gain something from it? Instead of, why is this happening to me where I feel like I'm the victim of life, where I'm constantly being beat up, tossed around, kicked, and especially kicked when I'm down, which is the way I think a lot of people probably feel right now. But if we could adopt a mindset or a perspective of life, that life is always for us, that life is perfect as it unfolds in its perfection, and that regardless of the circumstances under which we find ourselves, there is something happening for us. Something to benefit us, to allow us to have a better understanding of who we are, what we're here to do, what we can do. It's an opportunity to allow ourselves to be open to and receive the goodness of life, which I believe is available to every one of us, again, regardless of circumstances under which we find ourselves. And I think it's really a matter of giving ourselves permission to receive it. I think probably for far too long, maybe someone's whole life, because of how they've been brought up, they've been denied the goodness of life because they feel like they haven't been or are not worthy of it, or that they feel like for some reason we're not worthy of it, not deserving of it, not capable of doing whatever is necessary to allow that to come into their life or that to be their life experience. And yet I don't believe that to be the case. I do believe that we're all born into the perfect circumstances for which our soul has intended to gain from whatever circumstances we are born into, to gain from it whatever we are here to gain, to expand our understanding of ourselves, to expand our acceptance of our divinity, and within that, to exercise the powers that we have, the unlimited powers, the unlimited potential that we have, overcoming what we see as obstacles being placed in our way by life, instead of looking at them as being opportunities that are being placed in our life for us to continue this expansion process. So again, getting back to why is this always happening to me? I do think it's a matter of adopting a life perspective of life being for me, that everything happening in my life is for my benefit. And my responsibility with that is to figure out what that benefit is. And ideally to figure out what the benefit is, either in the midst of whatever challenging opportunity I might be in, or leading into it, where I see another event coming up that appears to be challenging, looking at it and saying, before I get into it, what am I to gain from this? And then be open and receptive to whatever information or whatever guidance you get, because I assure you it's there. And I know that as we receive that, it's going to give us the opportunity to move through whatever this challenging opportunity is much more readily, and we'll fully gain whatever the benefit that is contained within this particular event. So then the question is, well, how do I do that? I think, and I've talked about this many, many times, it is checking in with our thoughts and our beliefs, understanding why we believe what we believe, really checking in to see if what we believe is true and not just based on something somebody else has told us or somebody continuously repeats to us that we've accepted as being our truth, when in fact, more than likely it is not. It's about looking at life and realizing that life doesn't have a vendetta against you, doesn't have a vendetta against anybody else. Life is life. Life, and one of the quotes that I've used in my book, The Key to Life Living in Full Expression, is that life is an equal opportunity experience. We can all experience as much challenge as we want if we choose to. And on the other hand, we can always choose, or also choose, the level of abundance, the level of joy, the level of happiness that we want based on how we choose to live our lives. And it is a simple matter of just coming to that realization and adopting that as a mindset. Albert Einstein said, and I don't know exactly the time frame, but he said something that I thought was a really interesting and unique perspective. And of course, he being one of the most intelligent people that I've ever known of. And his question was, and he said, well, actually, he said, the answer to this question I'm about to ask you is going to determine how your life unfolds. And the question is, do you believe the world, the universe, is a friendly place, or do you believe the world, the universe, is a hostile place? And however you answer that is how your life is going to unfold, meaning that if you believe the world is a friendly place, you're going to see things from that perspective. You're going to see things from the perspective of everything is for my benefit. Life is doing nothing to hold me back. Life is doing everything to help me move forward, to help me grow and expand and become the full measure of who I am. If I look at life as being an unfriendly place, hostile place, I think is the word he used. If I look at the world as being a hostile place, then everywhere I look and anytime something happens that I might find a bit challenging, I'm gonna look at that as being life against me. I'm gonna play the role of the victim and get drawn into that, get sucked into that victimhood, which is gonna make my life more challenging. It's gonna make my life experiences more difficult, and it's gonna cause me to sink down into that mire of uncertainty and distrust and fear and all the other emotions that we can get drawn into when we're looking at life from the perspective of it being against us. So to me, that's the why of all of this. And I think it is our responsibility. I think that's one of the primary reasons why we're here, is to have that full experience and expression of ourselves within the context of all the events that take place, good, bad, whatever we want to place on the events that come up. And of course, how we think about an event is how we're going to experience it. So the next question, the next word that came up for me is what? So I started with why. So it's now what? And the what is, well, what am I to do? What am I to gain from whatever this experience is, or whatever this event is that I'm going through as an individual, or that we are going through as humanity? So what am I to gain from it? I think, as I mentioned earlier, that one of the things we gain from it is we see the outreach to other people. We see the outreach with love and compassion. We see how people are supporting one another. And we may be on the receiving end of that, where we see how people are responding to us, how people are supporting us, how people are wanting us to feel better about our circumstances. And of course, when they are giving of themselves during a situation like this, they're also receiving one of the greatest gifts they can receive, and that is the gift of giving. And so when we're on the receiving end of that, the more we open ourselves, we open our heart, and we receive whatever is being given to us, and we receive it genuinely, then we're giving that person that gift while we're receiving the gift of their generosity and their compassion by them supporting us. As I mentioned a minute ago, it also is, as we're going into a situation, and in the midst of it, even in the midst of what we're in right now, it's asking yourself, what can I gain from this? What is in this for me? How can I change my life? How can I change the way that I see things? How can I change the way that I communicate with other people? How can I change the way that I interact with other people? What are my thoughts regarding any prejudices I might have? What are my thoughts and beliefs regarding my life situation, being born in the United States versus somebody born in a different country, religious beliefs, challenges? I mean, all of those things come into play. And I think this is a time where we need to be questioning that. And above all else, as far as I'm concerned, and this is really the major key to, I think, what we're experiencing right now, or anytime we're experiencing something like this, but we're in the midst of this right now. And that is, what is true? What is the truth? What's really going on here? What can I believe? We can turn the television on every day, and of course, we're seeing all kinds of updates on what's happening with the virus, the number of deaths that are taking place, when and where the spike is supposed to take place. It creates fear, but yet it's information that we need to be able to make the best decisions for ourselves, and also those we care for and love, and those we can reach out to in different parts of the country, the different parts of the world. So to me, it really is about examining examining ourselves individually, but then also looking at ourselves collectively as humanity. Understanding the change that we can evoke right now in our own lives, in our own thoughts, in our own beliefs, and then from that, in the choices we make, and then in the subsequent actions that we take. And then the result, as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be the better world that I think we all want. It's going to be the peace, the joy, the happiness, the love, the compassion. It's going to be the sharing of all the riches of this planet that are there for each one of us. It's not there for one organization or one group or one ethnicity or people who might happen to live in that particular country. They happen to live in a country where there is whatever this resource might be. And it's there for all of us on the planet to be able to share in, not to hoard, not to take advantage of, and certainly not to hold against other people. So the question would be, what is it that I am to gain? What is it that I am to gain through this situation and any subsequent situation that I might find myself in? And I would also say that one other part of this would be looking back on other challenging situations you've gone through and looking at it to not say, why did that happen to me, but what did I gain from it? So that you can start seeing that everything that you've gone through, everything that you've experienced, there has been something within it that has benefited you. Now, then the other question would be, did I gain from that what I believe I gained? And then did I apply it? Did I allow that to be now integrated into my way of living in this world? Did I allow it to be integrated into my way of experiencing and expressing in this world? Does it allow me to continuously move towards the truth as, as I'm continuously moving towards my truth, my personal truth? The next word was how. So how do I apply this? Once I realize the benefit that's contained within each event, how do I apply that to my life? Well, that's just about being conscious about it. I mean, that's really about being conscious about it. It's about being in this moment. It's not about continuously thinking about the past and what happened. It's not about continuously thinking about the future and what could potentially happen. Because, and this is simple, and this is what we all understand, but for some reason we pay too much attention to what we believe might be challenging that could happen in the future, instead of looking at, well, what can I do today that's going to make that future time, whatever that is, whatever length of time that I might have left, but it's going to make that future time more beneficial, more joyful, more happy, more exciting, more of all the things that I personally want, and that I think that all of us would want to have. But the only time we can affect that is right now in this particular moment. So the how is, how am I going to monitor my thoughts, continuously monitor my thoughts, so that as I monitor my thoughts, I make sure that the thoughts that I'm holding or having and the beliefs that I'm holding are those that support that life I want to have as we continue to move forward. The life that I believe we all want to have as we continue to move forward. If I find myself slipping and my thoughts go in a direction that are not supportive of that, I just have to pull them back. I have to reframe whatever the thought might be having, or reframe whatever my belief might be. Or if I have taken or make a choice or take action on something and it wasn't the right choice to make, when I see the consequences of it, well, gain from that the fact that it wasn't the best choice. What choice could I have made? What choice am I willing to make right now? And as we continuously monitor this, and it sounds like it's a big effort, it's not. I can tell you that it's more challenging and more difficult to hold on to the lie about who we are and what we're here to do than it is to allow life to unfold in its perfection and to be a part of that unfolding of that perfection, and to just question why we're denying ourselves everything that life would offer us, why we deny ourselves our true expression in this world. We deny the gifts that we have been given. We deny the opportunities that we have been given by saying, again, getting back to limiting beliefs, we're not worthy of it, or I'm not capable of it, or whatever thoughts or beliefs we might hold about why something is not for us. And yet I believe that we wouldn't be given something if it wasn't intended for us. And I believe that in anything that is intended for us, there is that benefit. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been intended for you. Nothing's intended for you that's going to cause you difficulty. Now, we can talk about if you do something wrong, if you break the law or do something like that, and then you get arrested, or whatever the consequences might be that would be determined negative, you're going to say, well, isn't that what you're talking about? That was intended. Well, that is just the consequence of that decision that you made. That's the one thing that we don't control. But of course, you didn't have to do what you did. You made that choice to do whatever it was that got you into whatever this trouble might be that you're in now. So the how is just to be present. It's to be aware of all that's happening around you. More precisely, it's about being aware of all that's happening within you and the correlation between the two. We know, and we hear this constantly, that whatever it is that we feel, whatever it is that we believe, is what's determining what we experience on the outside. When I say on the outside, it's our experiences, our life experiences, and then how we perceive the world. The last one is the what. And to me, this is an interesting one too. And the what is, what will life be like when I go through this process and I start monitoring my thoughts? I start looking at my beliefs. I change my beliefs to reflect the beliefs that would support me in the life that I truly want to have, that would support me in the way that I want to truly express myself in this world. Well, what will life be like? And I think the misconception is that life will be free of challenge, that life will be free of pain, that life will be free of suffering. And that's not true. What will happen is that we will look at life differently. We will see that there's benefit in all these things that we're seeing happening in the world. And maybe your experience won't be as challenging, but you will still observe there being suffering in the world. But you'll look at it from the perspective of that's there for the benefit of whomever might be experiencing that particular event. And recognizing it from that higher perspective, you know that there's something for them to gain from it, and you honor and respect them for what it is that they're to gain. Now, that doesn't mean that if you see somebody who's being beat up or abused or whatever, that you don't step in and try to help. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we can do whatever we can do to support somebody or to stop somebody from being abused or being beat up or whatever we might observe or come upon just in our daily lives. But still within that, the person that's being abused or being beat up, or again, whatever the event might be, there is something for them to gain within that experience. Just as if you take action, if you intervene, there is something for you to gain from that experience of you being courageous enough to intervene on behalf of somebody else. There's always something in there for us to take from it. So your life will be, in my opinion, better because you'll be allowing more of the goodness of life to be received. You're going to be more receptive to it. And when you now have that life perspective of life is for me, as opposed to being life against me, you're going to be more aware of those opportunities of where life is providing you exactly what you need, exactly what you want. And you're going to make those choices. You're going to make better choices. Now, again, it doesn't mean you're not going to slide back from time to time and make a choice that is probably not in your best interest. However, I will say that even though the choice itself was not in your best interest, the consequence of that choice is going to be in your best interest, because now it shows you that you were off track. It shows you that you did not make the best decision possible in that moment when the decision was made. So it brings us back to center so that we can reevaluate, if you will, the choices that we're making and subsequent actions that we're taking. And of course, look at the consequences that could come as a result of that. So looking at our lives individually, again, we're still going to have challenges. That's part of this whole process of being here. We're going to be challenged, not to challenge us to hold us back, but to challenge us so that we can continue to expand and become more aware of how truly magnificent we are, and how, in fact, there is nothing that can be put before us that we can't overcome. And that's part of this whole realization of our divinity, really, really understanding and realizing how truly powerful we are. Each opportunity we're given that is perceived as being a challenge is providing that opportunity for us to expand into our magnificence, the full measure of who we are. I'll get back and just use the term again, our divinity, which I believe is what we are. So what will life in general be like? Well, obviously, the more people who engage in this process, the more people who come to that realization of their own divinity, who come to the realization that life is for all of us and not against any of us, that every event that takes place in life, there is a benefit to everyone, and specifically to those who are more directly involved in the event, but there is a direct benefit to them. And then, of course, those of us who might be observing it a little bit more from afar, the benefit to us is the outpouring of compassion, of love, of whatever positive, supportive feelings and emotions that we have that are a benefit of all those who might be in the midst of whatever that challenging opportunity might be. So life continues on, but the more people who embrace that life perspective, then we start to see the world change. We start to see more people. We start to see the sharing of all the abundance of the universe being shared amongst all of the people of this planet, and not being hoarded by those who have this perceived power. And I use the word perceived power because their power is only as good as the power we give them. And their power is only as good as the power they allow themselves to have as well. The idea is that having all this money and feeling like one is dictating how others can live gives them perceived power. But more often than not, people who are in that position are actually some of the weakest among us, because they don't realize that their power has nothing to do with the exercise of authority over others. It has nothing to do with the amount of money they have or their ability to buy certain things or the choices they can make. Nobody is any better than anybody else on this planet. Nobody else is more powerful than anybody else on this planet. People assume that power because of the power the vast majority of people give them, especially when you're looking at elected officials or somebody who might be the head of a corporation that you might work for. We give them the power of that leadership position, so to speak. But that doesn't mean they have power over us. Yes, there are certain things that we have to adhere to if we agree to be in that particular country, living in that particular society, or if you're working for a company, then yes, you've agreed to the way the company's operating, you've agreed to work from whoever the leader is, so there is that assumed power that they're given there. But they don't control your life. They don't control your life. You are the absolute authority in your life. You are the one person who can make a choice as to whether you will or will not do something. And then, of course, what you do or do not do is going to be reflected in whatever your actions might be. And then, of course, your consequences are going to come as a result of that. So the what will life be like? I think it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to be grand. I think it's going to continue to provide us everything that we need. It's going to continue to put in front of us challenging opportunities that allow us to continue to expand upon the truth of who we are, to give us that opportunity to experience and express the truth of who we are, and ultimately to realize our divine nature. So that's it. Those are the 4 words. And that's just kind of off the top of my head right now. I hope there was something in there that would benefit you. I'll be honest with you. I look forward to watching this again myself, because this is just something that's coming out right now. And I'll watch this and be able to reflect on it and perhaps come up with a little bit more information. Maybe I can dig down a little bit deeper in some of the topics within these 4 words. But again, I appreciate you being with me. I love the fact that you have opportunities to spend your time elsewhere, but you've given me 30, 40, I don't even know how many minutes it's been, 30, 40 minutes of your time to hear what it is that I have to say. If you find that you know others who might benefit from this particular message, please have them watch the replay. The replay is going to be it'll be live about an hour after this live episode. And it'll be available, I think, for about, it's not quite 24 hours. It's going to a little bit less than that, but I'll be posting a link on Facebook and you'll be able to get it there. But I appreciate it. I look forward to what we talk about next week. Don't know what it's going to be, but we'll figure out something. If you want more about me, or you liked what I said today, a lot of what I said today is contained in my book, The Key to Life Living in Full Expression, although not in those specific words and not through those 4 words: why, what, how, and what. But I think you'll find that the stories that I use and a lot of the quotes that I use in here are very supportive of what I've just brought out through this why, what, how, and what. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next time. Again, I appreciate you being here with me. And of course, be well. Take care now. Bye-bye.